Wizard101 is an MMORPG that I like to dabble in. I've been playing Wizard101 on and off for many years, reliving my childhood. Thanks to adult money, I was able to access areas I wasn't able to as a child. I can dive deeper, but let's talk about the game first. Wizard101 was released on September 2nd, 2008 by KingsIsle Entertainment, being one of the oldest MMORPGs still standing to this day. It may not be EverQuest, but 17 years is still pretty old. It re-released on PlayStation and Xbox on October 9th of this year, bringing it some well-deserved popularity. Plans for it to release on the Switch are in the works, but there isn't a confirmed date. I think it's important to note that the console port currently has many problems that KingsIsle is currently working on. Sadly, these problems lean more towards the PlayStation side, so if you have an Xbox, you're doing pretty well. This game boasts free-to-play all over the web. That's a lie. At most, you'll get level 10 into a portion of Wizard City. Many wizards, I included, remember fighting the Kraken over and over again at the center of Triton Avenue. Not being able to access any portion of the game very early on is a huge turnoff. You have two ways of getting around this: buy a membership to access all content the game has to offer, or buy separate areas with crowns. Crowns are a special currency you can purchase with your real money. Other than purchasing permanent access to areas, you can also purchase packs, items, and even houses. These items aren't necessary, and most of the time are a waste of money, but there are some golden items sitting in the crown shop. If you bought the areas and worlds with crowns, the estimate seems to be $300. This only increases as new worlds are released. I would recommend paying the membership requirement of $10 a month. With that out of the way, let's talk about the core gameplay. Wizard101 is a card game. You put spells into your deck, go into battle, and defeat enemies with said spells. To me, this is extremely addicting. Instead of worrying about what buttons my abilities are on, I could just use my mouse and click my cards. Not to mention, some of the spells look pretty cool. Sadly, there is a massive gameplay loop. You don't have to follow it, but it's very effective. You use blades that boost your damage, and then you would use an AoE. It can get boring sometimes looking at the same spells over and over again. Not to mention when you include fizzling. Fizzling is an extremely annoying mechanic where your spells have a chance to fail. This is annoying most of the time. When it happens to an enemy, not so much. I even had a time where my chance to fizzle was 4%, but fizzled 3 times in a row. Each class has a different accuracy for which spells hit, from least accurate to most: storm, fire, ice, myth, death, balance, and life. We'll talk more about the classes in a minute. Let's talk about questing. A good portion of the quests involve you moving back and forth talking to different NPCs, collecting items, killing mobs, killing bosses, and completing dungeons. This can get pretty boring sometimes, hence why I'm usually on and off with the game. Even worse, the crafting quests require a large amount of resources that are typically hard to get. You'll be grabbing them for hours. TV and YouTube are your best friends in those situations. It came to the point where I would ignore them entirely. You can make crafting easier by, you probably guessed it, spending money. In the crown shop, you can find specific materials for your crafting needs. The game offers extra activities. You can do something as simple as gardening or even fishing. Then you can do the worst thing I have ever done: pet training. Making pets in this game is beyond difficult. There are so many things that can go wrong. The worst part, they require mega snacks. Snacks are used to feed your pet to either give them XP or happiness. Mega snacks are souped up versions of regular snacks. You can get these a couple ways: farming, beating certain bosses, or once again, spending money. If you haven't noticed by now, money runs these streets. I won't lie, I've also given KingsIsle what they need. I spent money trying to get a permanent version of this cool motorcycle mount. After $120, I did get it.
So broke today. Oh! Early on! Early on! Oh my god!
Not my proudest moment, but it felt good. I highly suggest never spending a dime. Once you start, you can't stop. Let's talk about the classes, or in this case, schools. There are 7 schools of magic you can choose from. I won't go in depth, but here's a rundown. I'll also order these from my personal favorite to least favorite. First up is Ice. Ice is the tank of the game. If you want to boast some really high defenses, Ice is the school for you. I love this school, but man does it suck. For example, the blade spell. Most schools get this early on to increase damage, and by most schools, I mean literally everybody but Ice. Ice needs to finish most of Arc 1 before getting their blade at level 38. Not only that, their spells deal significantly less damage than other schools. Since they are the tank school, their armor pieces also focus more on defense over damage. While being tanky is kinda awesome, fights are pretty long. Next up is Myth. Myth is considered to be a conjurer of sorts. This is something that falls off early on. Minions are are only useful in the earlier parts of the game. Outside of that, Myth has almost everything you want for a wizard. High damage, good defense, and cool looking spells. If there's one thing they don't have, it's easy access to healing spells, but this can be mitigated with training points. We'll talk about those later. Next up is Fire. Fire is either the highest or second highest damage school. Fire focuses mainly on dots. This is a double-edged sword. When you need high damage to multiple enemies in one hit, Fire's biggest AoE doesn't come close to the other schools. Even Ice has better startup damage. I personally enjoy dots. It makes getting around shields kinda easy. Next up is Balance. Balance is a jack of all trades school. They use every element of the other schools along with their own. They have decent healing spells to keep you and your team going, and they have good utility from many situations. Balance is considered to be the support school for a good reason. Their blades, unlike every other school, are universal, allowing to buff any school's damage. This comes with the cost of a weaker blade. While everyone has 35%, Balance has 25%. The hardest part about Balance is that they have no way to deal with Balance enemies early on. Other schools have a prism to get around resistance, but Balance doesn't. Next up is Death. Death is the best school in the game. They are solo machines. They have spells that deal damage and heal you back for half the damage as HP. That's broken because you're not spending pips or wasting turns healing. If the game had a difficulty slider, Death would be the easy mode. Not to mention, they have access to some of the greatest utility spells, making them a really good support in team scenarios. One problem though, they don't get their AoE until level 48. This can be fixed in many ways. The easiest way is spending money. Next up is Life. Life is considered the healer of the game. Don't let that fool you. Life gains some ridiculous damage when they get their AoE at level 48. Not only that damage comes with amazing defensive stats. They're just a better version of Ice. Life is similar to Death. They lack an AoE until level 48. Unlike Death, when Life wants to heal, they have to waste a turn and pips to do so. Finally, we reach Storm. Storm is the damage school. Second to nobody unless niche situations occur. It makes blowing through the game quick. Now, why do I dislike this school? They're extremely squishy. I've always leaned towards tanks in my video games, and this is far from it. The health difference is extremely noticeable in all parts of the game. The other thing noticeable is the really high fizzle rate you have early on. This gets better with gear, but you'll have to suffer for a bit. At the end of the day, if you don't know what school to pick the one that has the coolest looking spells. This game has so much content to offer. Full 4 arcs to be exact. Each of these arcs contain many worlds to quest through, not to mention side worlds not included amongst them. If I had to compare it to something, I'd say Warframe. Years of content with no removal of older content. This is good, unlike Destiny 2. Fuck you guys. Not only that, content is still being made. With the release of Darkmoor, Arc 5 has begun. This game seems to keep releasing content, and it's probably going to be like that for many more years. Now, the game has a PvP mode. I haven't touched it at all. I've heard PvP is currently in a terrible spot, but I cannot confirm or deny this. I typically have no interest in PvP when it comes to this game. Maybe I could take a deeper look in the future, but not today. One final thing I want to touch on is dungeons. Dungeons are great. They really challenge you. Teaming up with other players to take on these dungeons is a huge part, especially when it comes to MMORPGs. Sometimes bosses have cheats that you have to keep track of. One fight you probably can't use blades, another you can't heal yourself. If you heal yourself, sometimes the boss heals themselves, and so on. These unique mechanics make normal fighting far more interesting. Should you play Wizard101? I'd say yeah. It's fun, but it has its problems. Luckily, sometimes KingsIsle makes the first arc free for a month, giving you time to play without paying. Not only that, sometimes they offer membership half off for your first month. It's not a great MMORPG, but it's not a bad MMORPG. There are definitely better ones out there. This is Tobi. I could say we've completed this quest.